Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think we can resume the meeting. I'm continuing to chair the meeting of my co-chair. And now we are coming to the agenda number 4, which is the marketing, making the offer that creative economy cannot refuse. In this particular agenda, we're going to have as a lead speaker Ms. Laura Anderson, chairman of the SVI Global Australia, and as an expert a speaker of expert, there will be 3 of speakers in this particular agenda. First is Mr. Joshua Simanjuntak, Deputy of Marketing of Backcraft, and then we have Mr. Agus Rahmadi, Executive Vice President of the Bank Rakyat Indonesia, and a third speaker will be Mr. Esam Al-Karara, UNIDO representative for Indonesia. I believe the issue of marketing is very much important. I see that the marketing issue is the connectivity of this economic creative with the customer. So this will be a very interesting discussion, and I believe there will be more insight that can be shared with us around the room. With all due further ado, I would like to invite Ms. Laura Anderson as the lead speaker, Chairman SVI Global Australia. You have the floor, Ms. Anderson.
Thank you all. Thank you, Chairman. It is such a great honor to be here. I kind of go back 1 year in time, and I think about how we all started and the generosity of spirit, but also the thought leadership that you have created as an entity, Backcraft and the Indonesian government, to bring us all together. So I can't thank you enough for that. Now, our topic, as we mentioned, is about marketing. And one of the things that I had asked, if you look at the way it's communicated, the marketing topic was about making an offer the creative economy cannot refuse. And one of the questions that I had was making an offer to whom, by whom, and then what causes someone to not be able to refuse that offer. So as we're talking about marketing in the broadest sense. So whether it's a government with nation branding or a city, whether it's a creative agency or a designer or someone in the community who's trying to make an offer, let's say for a microfinance loan. So what we want to do is, I think, talk in this session, I'll just talk about a few generalities as it relates to marketing in the creative economy, and then I'll throw it to the eminent panel of guest speakers with me today. So first thing is making an offer the creative economy cannot refuse. I would probably restate that into making an offer that the world can't refuse. Now, what does that mean? It's about clearly articulating the value proposition that the creative economy has to people, has to communities, has to societies, has to economies in general, trading blocks, has to government, and that has to the industries, as well as the SMEs that comprise SMEs, but industries that are being disrupted, left, right, and center. I think we all agree the fourth industrial revolution is upon us, and it's happening super fast. It's real, and I also like to coin it as the fourth industrial E-revolution, and that's the rise of the entrepreneur. Now, the time to act is now, and we must, I always say, lead, follow, or please kindly step out of the way. Now, I believe it's our responsibility to act now. There's a sense of urgency that I have. I don't know, maybe it's the age that I am, maybe it's all the events in the world around us, but I think it's up to us now to opt in, and it's for our children and for our children's children. There was a great book called Insanely Simple. I don't know if you've read it before. It's by Ken Segal. And the premise of the book is that a few people with a shared vision and passion and commitment can change the world. Right now, we're in, as I said before, and we hear over and over in the speakers, the fourth industrial revolution. Big data is all around us. I reflected back on my upbringing, and it was in a rural community, and that's probably a story for another day. But it was really all about, I call myself a BI girl, so before internet. My father called himself a BC man, before computers. So he was involved in starting the School of Advanced Technology at Purdue University, where the first astronauts were trained. And for those of us in the room who have a passion for space, which I do, next year we celebrate the 50th anniversary of man stepping on the moon. Think about that. So what will the next 50 years hold? So coming back to the topic of the value proposition in marketing, Enda made some comments in the opening about time is not on our side. Now, Enda was referring really to the amazing richness of today's agenda, but I believe it's really almost a leading indicator for what we're faced with now. Ricky also said, left and right brains unite. Come into this room and think laterally. And I think that's what it's going to take. It's back to this power of one. Or S, remember Superman, Superwoman? S is for synergy. So the synergy that can tie together all these points of light, points of excellence, countries from all over the world to unite and drive the massive synergy that's in front of us. The synergy to do what? Now, we look at the marketing aspects of the value chain. So today we're here to talk about the demand side. So the demand side, given we've talked about market access, and for all of us, we may serve in the role of the sand in the oyster, who asks those challenging questions within our countries, within our communities, and of one another. We may open doors that allow others to walk in, or we may put a big gust of wind in the sail of something that really must happen, and perhaps take each other's hand and say, we must go there now. So around that, market access is key, but also is IP development, and one of our speakers will talk a little bit more on that. But from a marketing perspective, I thought I'd just talk very briefly about 5 key elements that I think we all must be aware of, depending on which lens we wear. The first is a marketing proposition must solve a real problem. The proposer must be able to clearly articulate that, and I always use something I'll call the 5 indents of why. As soon as you say why something's important, then you say, well, why is that important? And if you continue to do that even for yourself, it's amazing how you get down to the essence of your value proposition. So number 1, solve a real problem. 2 is a value proposition from a marketing perspective must be authentic, and it must be able to deliver on the promise. The 3rd is it must have a UVP, a unique value proposition, one that can't be easily duplicated by competitors. 4, a marketing plan must be able to adapt. It must be able to sense, respond, disrupt, and transform. And the 5th element is from a marketing perspective, we must all be able to embrace the transformative nature of data that's all around us. Now, data, and from a marketing perspective, we're looking now in a new world order, that there's this fusion of high tech and high touch. Data is all around us. It's transforming the way we live, it's transforming the way we work, and it's transforming the way we interact with one another. We talked a little bit and touched on AI, machine learning, augmented reality, virtual reality. All of those are elements that have to be considered when we're looking at the engagement strategies of a marketing plan. So now what I'd like to do is just summarize by introducing my speakers, but talking about really why we're all here in the room. And I guess one of the things I believe so strongly in is about the unifying nature of a star team versus a team of stars. Everyone's in this room because they've already made, and they are making, and will continue to make great contributions to our societies. But it's the synergy of what brings us together that creates the star team. I call that the power of one. I believe strongly Indonesia is the perfect place to lead the world, demonstrating how it embraces diversity, how it leverages its inclusiveness, and is in the most dynamic and growing region of the world. One of the things that I think is illustrating of, again, that fusion of creativity with commerce is Art Bali. So Ricky, thank you so much. I had the wonderful opportunity to see that yesterday, and it's a can't miss exhibition. So those of you in the room who've not had the opportunity, it's only 200 meters away, you must see it. It is absolutely amazing. So in closing, what I wanted to do is just say at the end of our speakers, we will open the floor for questions. Each speaker will speak for about 5 to 7 minutes, max 10, we've all agreed. And no, I'm teasing. So we'll work hard, but we want to open the floor for questions. And I'd also like to open an invitation for you in March next year to Melbourne, Australia. So I'll explain more about that at the end. So over now to my first guest speaker. So Assam, please, from UNIDO, please take the floor.
Thank you very much, Laura. I hope our IT expert will put my presentation on the screen. Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and salamat sore. I will start my presentation with a quote of Rustom Akshkubov, the founder of Robo Wunderkind, who was describing his experience with UNIDO to leverage the cultural and the creative industry. And I quote, "I must admit there has been never a better time for working together and joining hands to leverage cultural heritage and the creativity of people to generate sustainable impact of people's lives. And I think that with the help of organizations such as UNIDO, these projects must expand more," unquote. Ladies and gentlemen, acknowledging the global importance of the cultural and the creative industries that generate, as per the Cultural Time report in 2015, it generated $2.5 billion and hire more than 30 million jobs globally. Based on this the huge potential of the creative industries, UNIDO developed an exclusive creative industry program that combined culture, innovation with business opportunities. In order to improve the competitiveness at both the sectorial as well as the product level, UNIDO usually focus on 3 dimensions: the business environment, enabling business environment, building industry support and advisory services to empower enterprise performance and resource efficiency. The most important part of the program that I would like to highlight today is branding, which is part of the development of market penetration strategies through a service called Branding for Competitiveness. It facilitates the quality compliance with the branded beneficiary manufacturers produce to certified programs based on ISO 20671. And I am pleased to share with you some of our experience in Armenia, Tajikistan, Cuba, and some countries in the Mediterranean region. In Armenia, I wish that if you kindly put some slides under UNIDO presentation. Yes, please. Please go more until you reach the slide. Yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead, please. Go ahead. And go ahead also. This is the Armenia we work on garment sector. Please, next. In Armenia, in fact, UNIDO program focus, as I mentioned, on garment, and that has created a national fashion called 5900 BC. And also we established a training school as well as supporting 25 Armenian garments and access them to the global markets. And I will not take a lot of time. I appreciate if you go to the video and go to the Armenia video, and I would like to present 2 minutes on our experience in Armenia. Yes.
Once Armenia was very famous for its industrial manufacturing capacities, and one of the key industries was garment manufacturing, with outstanding historical heritage and crafting traditions. UNIDO project started a new chapter in the book of garment manufacturing traditions. Following years of decline in the post-Soviet period, the industry is growing again, and the project is about to create a new milestone in the rebirth of the old traditions of the Armenian apparel industry. Atexburgo Fashion School was established in partnership with Milan-based Istituto di Moda Burgo to provide industrial product design, pattern making, grading, and other services to local garment manufacturers. The continued meticulous teamwork of the UNIDO project's international and national experts, together with the project beneficiary companies, resulted in the creation of 4 collections under the joint label 5900 BC. Product upgrading activities were followed by participation in local and international exhibitions, trade fairs, and fashion shows. Armenian products got the attention of the leading Russian brands and fashion houses. A contract was signed with one of the leading Russian retail chains. It soon laid the foundation to collaboration with the world-famous Russian fashion house of Valentin Yudashkin. The inspiration behind the label 5900 BC, uniting 8 Armenian garment manufacturers, was the discovery of the world's most ancient 5,900-year-old skirt here on the territory of Armenia.
Yes. Thank you very much. Can you go back to the presentation, please? In Tajikistan as well, we work on the garment, home textile, accessories, and carpets. And UNIDO also program established a brand called Lal. And there is no time, otherwise we also have a video for Tajikistan. In Cuba, the UNIDO program work on music to strengthen the music chain, value chain of the music export capacity. And the main achievement also was the digital collection as well as the intellectual property rights. In Mediterranean region, in Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, we also work on different value chain, and a lot of brands has been established. Can you go next, please? Next, please. Next. And this will lead me to talk about, very briefly, next, about our proposals to develop similar projects in Ampon, Maluku Island. Please, next, please. And the idea is to develop in cooperation with our national counterpart As I mentioned, similar project, cultural and creative industry, where there is a huge potential to utilize the rich cultural heritage in various value chains, spices, music, food, fashions, handicrafts, and the idea also to establish a new brand for Maluku called Origin of Oceania Culture, Oceania, or similar to that. With this, I would like to conclude, but before I conclude, I would like to invite also the donors to partner with us to make our new proposals for Indonesia a reality. With this, I would like to thank you very much. Thank you.
That was wonderful, Assam. And I also believe, that fashion is the fabric of a society, and it weaves together kind of the cultural history of a society's past, so 5900 BC, with the aspirations for its future, and looking at all the different elements that you utilize that concept and brought it together. So thank you very, very much. Now, August, where are you? Forgive me. Great. Thank you so much.
Yes, I'm here.
Please take the floor. Thank you.
First of all, I would like to thank this event is so important and triggering many events which is also follow another business for the entrepreneurs. So my name is Agus Rahmati. I'm from Bangladesh, Indonesia. Bangladesh, Indonesia is 124 years and running about 10,000 outlets with 45 million clients. So most of our clients are micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, which is dealing with any commodities, of course, including the business and creative business. Now, the reason I'm trying to share about what I've experienced here in this forum is that in 124 years of our experience, we deal a lot with middle and low-income people. Now, what's happening right now is that most of them right now experience what we call as a culture shock in economy. What I mean by culture shock in economy is that they have a different background, which is the progress of their business, their capacity, completely different than the environment, which is fully already in digital. So, for example, we experience that when we talk with Caucasian, you have to find the data by Googling. They don't know about Googling, or maybe some of them still try to read. You have to know what website. You have to know. You have to have social media, etc., and on and on like that. Facebook, WhatsApp, etc. And most of them, yeah, they know about this one, but many of them, of course, they don't understand about this one. So back to the topic that we are talking about right now, about the marketing, the offer that it cannot refuse. I think we do understand, we are fully aware that the marketing itself that we are running right now should be not just merely marketing, but it's something that is connected to the capacity buildings to make them aware about what happened in their environments. Yeah, I'm not talking about those who are already sophisticated in business, but I'm talking about the low and middle income peoples, middle and lower, based on our experience. So, if we talk about the marketing, we have not just to offer our product, our program, our activity, but at the same time, the marketing should be also the moment for creating business, and most important thing is the moment of increasing capacity building for them as well as networking, so that at the end, they will get in returns their own business, not just our business itself. So, in this case, BRI, based on our experience, we try to make experiment and make the solution for this problem. How? We try to offer what we call a mobile apps, which is connected between marketing, loyalty programs, networking, information, etc. So the first thing that I would like to share is that they need information. The economy with information, so we offer information. Most of them, they don't know how to Googling, but we try to make filtering the information by providing them enough information at their own level or portions. The information just about pricing, the information is all many about events. So these mobile applications providing information just like a news, but also about business and also any information related to their own business. So I cannot go into detail for this one, but at least 60% of the news is only for their business. So they don't need to read or to follow the major news, but it's enough. They just get the news from us, from this application. So they can also share about their own news or event through this application also, and this feature for the information and news. The second one, more than just news or information, we also provide what we call, of course, what I call as training or capacity building or advocacy. So they got news, but also they got like a capacity building, advocacy, so that they can increase their knowledge in entrepreneurship, their knowledge in marketing, their knowledge in productions, etc. So that at the end, they know how to increase their business or their economy by doing the same things in this marketing program as well. Now, more than just training or advocacy, they can also experience something new. Training or capacity building is one of the biggest problems in the economy. Why? Because for lower middle income, when they leave their business, then they leave their economic activities, meaning they lost their business. They cannot stay away from the business. So we try to produce this product or this program is because they can still follow training courses or any activity, even though they are still in their own place, in their own outlets. So this is the thing. So it could be on-the-spot training, it could be broadcasting training, or even recorded. We can do it. The third one is we also providing with them is a networking, a community. We make a group for them so that all of the middle, low-income business, they can make their own group, their own business community. They can share by themselves. That they can also share about the best practice among themselves. It's important that they can know the weakness, the strength point of each other. That finally they can share and helping one another. They become friends, not just become competitors. They become friends because in one community. The fourth one is that when these economies, they're already in a group, when they're already in the communities, sometimes they don't have any expert at all. They just share among themselves. So we need somebody who is very expert in certain things. We provide consultancy. So in these features, we try to offer that, yes, you can make a group, you can share among themselves with your own capacity and portion, but if you need an expert, we offer. We can make like advocacy, consultancy, 24 hours that they can ask something about anything, about the economy, about the activity, about promotion, about product, about many things. They are free to ask in this consultancy forum. So sometimes the problem of the middle income peoples, the practitioners in business, sometimes they are ashamed, they are embarrassed, they don't have time, they don't have the network to talk to us. But here, they got the solution because they're not ashamed, they're not embarrassed anymore because they can just do it at home or while they're doing their business. The fourth one, the fifth is that now our central banks in Indonesia, our OJK, financial authority, they also try to offer what we call financial literacy. Now, this also try to offer financial literacy, how to make balance sheet, how to deal with transaction and many things by having this one. So knowing that, that this can be useful for them, so they can just apply and then they have their own balance sheet doing this one. Income statement and many more, about break-even point and analysis, etc. The other one is that beside all of the capacity buildings, they also, of course, as a bank, we try to offer financial services. Now, but sometimes the economy, the practitioners in business, they don't know how to start, how to apply loan, how to apply a saving account, etc. We offer that one, so that they don't need to come over, but they can start with that application. They can apply for the loans, even trying to make a simulation about loan, micro credit or micro loans, so that once they are ready, the banks can just directly offer the financial service for them. But more than everything, besides the information, capacity building, increase the knowledge of the clients and networkings, we also try to give them a forum to make promotion of their products. So everybody in this forum, they can promote their own product, any kind of products, including creative industry, of course, in creative economies. So each of the forum, each of the members, they can just promote them and also connect it to the e-commerce. So in this case, not just giving marketing, not just having networking, not just increasing the capacity building, but also they can make a business. So by doing this, activities, we hope our programs, at least approved by them, they not have a resistance. I don't have time. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the people. I don't have friends. But we want to be a friend for them, not just a friend, but a good friend for them, so that finally their business growing, the economy growing, and everybody's becoming a good friend instead of becoming competitors. Something that maybe have to be aware about this one is that previously we talked about the policy, regulatory, and the policymakers. I would like to make a request. Every day there's new employment. Every day there's new business makers. Every day there's new micro entrepreneurs come up. But sometimes they always have a problem with the same thing. They need more Wi-Fi. They need more Wi-Fi. They need more airtime top-up, etc. It still becomes a big burden for them, for some people. I'm talking once again is those who are in the medium and lower incomes. So that's why in this forum maybe we can also make a request that for the sake of the good environment of the economy, especially the creativity, maybe we can share together, make a creative activity together, so that marketing is no longer become just selling something or marketing or target market, segmentation or positioning program, etc. But something that we can work together, become friends, and making business together. So maybe that is the short presentation for me. So maybe we can just continue with it. Thank you, Laura.
Great, thank you so very much. Thank you, August. One of the key things is your contribution to enabling the ecosystem development here in Indonesia. So again, you're satisfying that demand merge between the supply side and the demand side, and the microfinance, you're making it, again, accessible for all. So again, thank you so much for all of that. Now, Joshua, I'd like to turn the floor over to you, and thank you very much for being here.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. Allow me to share the presentation, which interestingly connect with the previous speakers. So can you put up the presentation, please? Okay. So I think the title is the government's role as an enabler to create the IP market ecosystem through policies. Okay, next, yeah. So this is our draft for Creative Economy Act, that the creative economy is the manifestation of value added in intellectual property rights emanated from human creativity and based upon science, cultural heritage, and technology. The emphasis here is the intellectual property, which mostly based on everything that related to create the economic value of products. Next. Now, this visual here. This is what the difference between the creativity and commodity. The output of creativity is intellectual property, while the output of manufacturing are goods. One is an intangible added value, while the other one is the vehicle or the media to create the tangible end products. So I would like to take an example like Mr. Esam before, in the fashion industry, in the fashion sector, the output of creativity is the design and the brand, while the manufacturing output are the garments. So next. Now the challenge is there are lack of policies to enforce the implementation of IP in various sectors of production. So I would like to take an example of furniture industry in Indonesia, which has suffered for a long time of image for the copying design. Now this is the offer that you have to refuse, not you cannot refuse, you have to refuse, right? Now this is simply because there is no need to implement IP, right, in the production chain. Now I have to use and force rather than more mild termination, as there is no choice but to do so if you would like to gain a real economic and sustainable value. Next. The one that can help to create the ecosystem is by making policies to help the implementation of IP. That would be the duties of government as the policy makers. Now, before, please. Yeah. Now, I would like to share this experience that we try in our promotion program, marketing, overseas marketing, for the sector of product design and craft. We only give out promotion support, such as an exhibition abroad, only to those who have IP implemented in their products. So if they don't have any IP implemented, so we don't give any support. And surprisingly, this little so-called internal policies, it actually push these manufacturers to start working with designers, start working with creative people. Now we are looking to create this policy into a bigger effect, really simply in order to create the products, the original design, the original products that what we call the market cannot refuse, right? Now, what's next? Well, what next is what we did is just a small fragments within the whole chain of products. So we are on the other, on the far end, on the market that we say, look, you know, we don't, we only support the IP products which has IP implemented. Well, along the production line, there should be also policies created in order to make sure that the IP is actually implemented in all sectors, from the development, from the financing, infrastructure, and finally to the market. So here, I would like to invite basically everyone to pour thoughts on how to enable this to happen. And I believe that the issue of IP also connected even to the e-commerce market, which now flooded with copy products and so on. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joshua. So what we'd like to do now, do we have 10 minutes, I believe, for questions? Great. So we'd like to open up the floor for any questions that you have of any of the speakers. So would anyone like to ask a question? Yes, please. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I am Tuti. I'm an economics lecturer from University of Hindu Indonesia in Denpasar. Well, thank you for the very interesting marketing discussion we've got here. The massive discussion about digital marketing rose rapidly throughout the world nowadays. But speaking of creative products, there is actually a little problem here. Whereas for the traditional art products, for instance, Bali hand weaving, there are two different materials. Firstly, like a silk material, and second, like cotton material. If this kind of traditional creative products only spread by online marketing, I guess like what we've discussed here, I personally believe that buyers from other countries, which didn't so understand about this kind of product, will be a little biased because there will be different price, which is the silk would be far more expensive than the cotton material ones. Please kindly share your opinion for this case, particularly for the existence for an offline marketing or conventional marketing instead of digital marketing for this kind of product, because we're still speaking about a creative economy here, in the needs of art and cultural products. Well, thank you very much.
Great, thank you. What I'll do is maybe make two observations of what I've seen and then turn it over to our other speakers. I think the artisanal nature, right, is so special. It's that rarity. So it comes back to how things are positioned and the value proposition that's put around it. And so I think everyone's looking for uniqueness and they're looking for authenticity. So again, do you have to go offline or can you communicate that effectively online? And I think it's that fusion of high tech and high touch that's happening all around us. So I do believe there are ways in the marketplace, but it comes back to the way you're positioning the value proposition. So there's more thoughts on that later, but over to my fellow panelist. Any comments on that? Great, thank you so much for your question. Another question? No other questions? Have I missed? No? Great. All right, well, thank you all very much for your participation. Thank you, my fellow panelists. I think one of the key things in summary is we're in a world of mass customization, and it's critical that we understand the value proposition that we are positioning and selling, whether it's to the world from a city or country perspective, or from a supplier or an artisan. So I go back to the 5 key things that I tried to pose in the beginning, and that was about a value proposition must solve a real problem. It must be authentic and deliver a promise. It must have a unique value proposition that can't be easily duplicated by competitors. It must be able to adapt, to sense, respond, disrupt, and transform. And it must embrace the transformative nature of data that's all around us. So again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Laura, for give a round of applause for the session. And thank you so much, Laura, for leading this discussion, and I believe we have a very able speaker on this particular session. We learned a lot from the discussion. We learned from you, Laura, on the 5 key elements of the value proposition. We also being shared the experience by Bank Rakyat Indonesia on how they they do the capacity building for not only the producer, but also the customer as well. And last but not least, of course, we've been able to have some insights from Pak Joshua on how the things going on. And of course, now we are exhausted the discussion in this particular agenda. Then now we move to the next agenda, which is ecosystem and financing, taking the creative economy ecosystem and enterprises to the new height. In this particular discussion, the lead speaker will be Dr. Tita Larasati, lecturer from Institute Technology of Bandung. And there will be 4 speakers in my list. Mr. Christophe Bauet from UNDP, Indonesia Country Director. And then Mr. Daniel Tumpal Simanjuntak, Director for African Affairs from Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia. And then we have Mr. Fajar Hutomo, Deputy of Access to Capital from Bekraf. And last but not least, we have Ms. Mukti Prasetyatiani Suyahmun, PhD, Head of Mandiri Institute, Bank Mandiri. With all further ado, I would like to give the floor to Dr. Tita Larasati to lead the discussion. You have the floor, Dr. Larasati.
Right, thank you. Thank you.
Where are you? Oh, yeah, there. Okay.
I'm here. Yeah, okay, this session is maybe one of the elements in the whole chain of creative economy values. So I would like to a bit repeat about what was discussed since the first speech of the chairman and co-chairman. That as an ecosystem, we are involving the stakeholders of the pentahelix A, B, C, G, and M, which is academia, business sector, community, government, and media. So within this ecosystem, there are also, we heard about this value chain of creation, production, and distribution phases. And if we talk about financing the ecosystem, also taking the creative economy ecosystem and enterprises to the new height, we should also consider this, also mentioned before, the phases of connect, collaborate, and commerce or celebrate. Well, in my personal experience, as also I'm teaching industrial design at the Faculty of Arts and Design of Institute of Technology Bandung, but I'm also now the chairperson of Bandung Creative City Forum, an organization since 2008, which has been practicing this connect, collaborate, and commerce or celebrate, if it comes in the form of festival or so. And I'm also the focal point of Bandung, City of Design for UNESCO Creative Cities Network. So also attending all these UNESCO Creative Cities annual meeting, what it means to become within the network is that each city that are members, they are committed to include culture in their development strategy, to respond to sustainable development goal, and to also practice the new urban agenda. And what it means is in 2017, when Bandung attended the annual meeting, we were appointed as one of the best examples for implementing the SDG number 11, which is Sustainable City and Community, through one of our projects. Our main programs, which also include the A, B, C, G, and M, using design thinking to find solutions for urban issues if every year. So it's an annual event that involve all these stakeholders. And also, being in the network means that if you concern about sustainability, you know that there are 3 pillars of sustainability, which is people, planet, and prosperity. And being in UCCN means you also concern about the 2 other P's. So there are 5 P's now: people, planet, prosperity, but there's also peace and partnership. And talking about national level, because I also belong to Indonesia Creative Cities Network. It's a network of cities and regencies, and up to today, we gathered already about 170 cities and regencies in Indonesia, whose community already realized that their main potentials is no longer in the digging their minerals or cutting down trees, but instead they're using the human ideas, human resources to be their economic resource. So as ICCN, we already produced a white paper of creative cities, which includes the 10 principles of creative city of Indonesia. And we use this now, we're in the process to push creative economy to be included in regional regulation, because we experience that the change of government, regional government, usually also a change of policy. And if we want to make the policy on creative economy really sustainable, then we should at least put it in a higher position, that it should ask the commitment for whoever the leader of the regional area is to be committed in that. And it is based on the National Performance Index of regional governments. So whether they choose it or not, we hope that this will accelerate and this will emphasize regulation that includes also culture and promotion of creative economy in the regulation. So in this session, because this has to do again with ecosystem, which means it has elements that if one element doesn't work, then the circle of ecosystem won't work smoothly or according to plans. So what I would like to set up here also is according to the papers and share summary that we accepted already. We will discuss about the importance of collaboration among stakeholders, including the SMEs and startups and micro industries and so on. We will discuss about values and constraints to create enabling environment and also to provide support in any forms, training, capacity buildings and so on. And also, last but not least, perhaps it's the importance of digital platform, how private sector support as a promotional channel for SMEs and so on. And for the first speaker, I would like to invite is Mr. Christophe Bauer here from UNDP. Yeah. Please, sir, take your time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tita Ratarsati. My name is Iksan Mojo, actually. I'm the head of Innovative Financing Lab in UNDP Indonesia. I'm speaking here on behalf of Dr. Christophe Bauer. Excellency and leaders, thank you very much for your time. I'm taking like the one specific aspect of creative economies in these presentations, which I'm going to take about the innovative and creative financings for delivering the SDGs. I've already prepared like some presentations here, but I'm just going to talk briefly that what we're facing here in Indonesia, there are a couple of things. One is the fact that the amount of required to delivering the SDGs until 2030, the agenda requires enormous amount of funds. One estimation from UNESCOP that mentions that the gap in SDG financings for developing countries amounted to $2.5 trillion a year. At the same time, we also faced with the fact that the amount of official development assistance to developing countries has been dropped in recent years and is only amounted to about 200 billion US dollars a year. So obviously there's a huge gap in here. So what we think that we need in order to bridge that gap is to have some sort of mechanism, some sort of creative and innovative financings in order to help to assist the countries in helping in achieving these SDGs. So the Sustainable Development Goals. So what we are trying to do here, and we have established here in Indonesia, is what we call the Creative Innovative Financing Lab. So the Innovative Financing Lab, if you can go directly, I mean, like I've prepared presentations in here, is on the slide number 7, please. It's basically a platform. It's a platform to work together with all partners, donors, with the government particularly, to achieving this financing, mobilized financings for the SDGs. It works in two different ways. One is actually inventing the instruments, new instruments for financing the SDGs. And the second one is to developing new business models to facilitate the mobilizations of the funds into the countries. And as you can see here, we have like several windows here to help the ecosystems of creative and innovative financings. One is the donor capitals. I'm going to put some example later on. And we also work indeed on technologies. We also work on green financing and Islamic financings. We work on impact accelerator, impact investments, and we also work on the last window is knowledge management. So for example, the knowledge management, we're going to have a Center of Excellence of Training in Islamic Finance, working with the ISDB's group, soon in Indonesia here. But if you go to the next slide, there's a couple of, next slide. This is the, no, previously? So, yes, this is the Zakat for SDGs, the Islamic, one of the windows that we're working on. We basically, there's a video that I'm going to play, like it's only 2 minutes videos later on, basically providing like renewable energy for about like 4,458 beneficiary in Jambi area, using a combination blended financing from Zakat Fund and CSR, as well as the vertical funds of Global Environment Fund. Next. We also work next with Wakaf for SDGs, where we, with BNI 446 Sharia, and as well the Badan Wakaf, developing work next, what we call the Zakat platforms. On the Islamic finance as well, we assist like the government of Indonesia in developing the green sukuk. As you know, Indonesia is the first country, Ministry of Finance, who issues a sovereign green sukuk in US dollars denominated for amounted to 1.25 billion, just recently in February 2018. In 2019, we are planning to help and also work with the Ministry of Finance as well to issue what we call the SDG bond. SDG sukuk, not SDG bond, and what we call the blue sukuk. One country has issued what we call as a blue bond, right, recently, generous. But we plan to do, we combine both the blue and the Islamic component of it by issuing what we call the blue sukuk. Stay tuned on this. It's going to happen in next year. Next. We also have, working with Bekraf and Hubud, our partner, City Foundations, what we call as a Youth Collab. Youth Collab is basically incubator, creating ecosystem for youth entrepreneur, social entrepreneur in Asia, and it's actually happening now. Next, if you see, this is what we happened like just November 4 I think last week. We have a couple of youngsters from Indonesia and Eastern Indonesia who social entrepreneur, and we train them, we incubate them, help them to become social entrepreneur. Next. And this is the, even like just we have like today, this morning with Bekraf, where we have the national dialogue on youth entrepreneurships. Next, this is the Green Sukuk. Apart from the incubations, we also work with the accelerator. So incubator is for those startup very new seed, but we also work with the more mature entrepreneur. We have what we call the impact accelerator, where we're going to work with 500 plus startup, and we also going to work with Bekraf on how to develop and enhance the ecosystems of the social entrepreneurship, also impact investment in Indonesia. Next. That's it. Yeah, this is the Badan Wakaf. Next. This is the UNDP BNI Sharia of Wakaf digital platform. One thing that we learned is actually in this Wakaf Hasanah and also like the Wakaf platform is that small innovations can indeed bring a huge difference. Why did I say that? I mean, like, I think BNI 446 Sharia is the first bank, Sharia bank in Indonesia who actually developing this Wakaf digital platform. And by that means, they've been able to mobilize a fund, a cash Wakaf, for amounted for about like 20 billion Indonesian rupiah, which is the biggest, I think, among like the banks who actually can help to mobilize this Wakaf fund. We also work on impact investments. Next, we have like what they call SDG fund, UNDP Impact Accelerator, and we're going to work also with the social impact bond. But basically this platform, this innovative financing platform, is our offer for the ecosystem, for partnership, for mobilized funds. And I'm going to close my presentations with, just skip to the videos that we will present our work in Jambi. Thank you.
Is there a video showing? Yeah.
Ketika di kota tampak begitu dinamis, di satu sisi daerah, waktu seakan terhenti. Ketika listrik dirasa memberikan perbaikan ekonomi, pendidikan, dan kesehatan oleh sebagian masyarakat, di sisi lain, saudara-saudara kita belum merasakan akses elektrifikasi.
penyakit dusun kami ni Pak. Listrik tak ada, lampu cukup. Ada bantuan belum ada tujuh pakar. Bertanya kami ni cukup. Kenapa nak buat PTA jadi listrik ayu. Cuma akal kami tak ada. Modal pun tak ada, maka kami tak tolong dengan kamu nggak tahu.
Menolong persalinan itu yang kita hadapi nyawa bayi dan ibunya. Jadi memang benar-benar sulit kalau tidak ada lampu pada saat menolong persalinan itu.
Desa ini salah satu desa tertinggal, terlihat dari indikator salah satunya jalan. Indikator berikutnya terlihat dari sisi ekonomi. Desa Lubangkar ini salah satu desa termiskin, yang paling miskin di Kecamatan Batangasai.
Ketimpangan ini menjadi perhatian bagi kami. UNDP, EBTKE Kementerian ESDM, Pemerintah Provinsi Jambi, Badan Amil Zakat Nasional, dan Bank Jambi untuk bersama-sama dengan masyarakat memberikan akses listrik di lingkungannya. Kerjasama ini diwujudkan dengan membangun satu PLTMH baru di Desa Lubuk Bangkar, Kecamatan Batangasai, Kabupaten Sarolangun, dan merevitalisasi 3 PLTMH di Desa Ngaol, Desa Air Liki, dan Desa Air Liki Baru, Kecamatan Tabir Barat, Kabupaten Merangin. Pembangunan dan revitalisasi ini adalah salah satu wujud kontribusi dalam mendukung pencapaian tujuan pembangunan berkelanjutan atau SDGs di Indonesia, terutama untuk meningkatkan akses energi untuk pemberantasan kemiskinan dan peningkatan kemakmuran masyarakat.
Semoga perbaikan listrik kami sukses seperti semula.
Kami mengharapkan renovasi PLTMH desa kami ini berjalan dengan lancar dan baik, dan kami harapkan dapat menyala kembali.
Jadi kita sama berdoa kepada Allah, semoganya tidak lancar, aman, sukses. Semoganya kita keluarga penduduk kampung ini sangat mengharap tumbuh dengan semasa PTA.
Dalam kandung ibu nyan lapun ini dapat nahnya tagak dan terang kaya aku ganti dia terang itu kan lagi bawa aku ni lah. Dah umur hidup ni lah aku dah umur hidup. Umurku ni lah 55 tahun. Dek kata atau ganjang ada kulai lampu ni lah ada doanya kulai lampu lain. Lampu ni lah lampu.
Right, thank you for the very comprehensive examples through the videos as well. Now we move on to our next speaker, Mr. Daniel Tumpal Simanjuntak, Director of African Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Indonesia. Time is yours.
Thank you, Tita. My presentation will focus on in the issue of ecosystem and financing. We should start provoking ourselves how we can do if, for example, in 2020, we will have the second World Conference on Creative Economy. And we will adopt one of the part of the declaration. The presentation, please. We will adopt in the Bali Declaration. I will pick up one of our commitments that we would like to undertake activities to facilitate business ventures, new projects such as feasibility studies, to foster startups collaborations at national and international level. This issue it will be important, at least. We would like to see how we can do together, for example, between Indonesia and Africa. As we are aware, Africa is huge, and around like 54 countries, we can do more. And the previous speakers mentioned the importance about how we can connect the the noble objective of this conference with our objectives to meet SDGs. With Africa, we believe we can do more in this area. Next slide, please. So this is a glimpse of what we see from the Indonesian vantage point, what we can do together with Africa. The previous speaker mentioned, for example, if I'm not mistaken, Maria mentioned this morning that even Africa is still, there is room for improvement in terms of economic collaboration. And from this conference, maybe we can start thinking how we can do together. For example, more detail between Indonesia and Africa, and even we can invite the triangular cooperation with other countries. Next. So, while we have political closeness with Africa, since we had Bandung, Dasasila Bandung in 1955, Indonesian current government start thinking about how to convert this political closeness to economic collaboration. As you know, that in 2017, in April, we start having the first ever Indonesia-Africa Forum. In relation with creative economy, we don't have yet that kind of collaboration. What we have through that meeting, first in the area of strategic industries. Yes, our meeting, we are not discussing about strategic industries. We are not talking about aircraft, we are not talking about defense equipment, we are not talking about railways, but we are start thinking about digital-based economy. And also from the Indonesia-Africa Forum, next slide, we see for the first time Indonesian Exim Bank start giving special attention to Africa. The biggest issue for us today, whether we can use this finance from an Indonesian Exim Bank to also in the areas of digital economy, for example, or how we can make collaboration between Indonesian Nollywood with Indonesian filmmakers. These areas are yet explored, and we have to start thinking how we can do that in the concrete way in the next WCCE. In terms of securing finance, we also see the Indonesian Exim Bank, they start allocate amount of money that can be used for this kind of project. And also, in the area of how to lower tariff, surprisingly, even though we have a political closeness, with African countries, there are a lot of trade barriers. Can you imagine once, for example, we lower the tariff? As we speak now, now there are negotiations with countries like Mozambique that we would like to lower tariff. Once we can lower the tariff, then the products related to creative economy can flock in, not only from Indonesia to African countries, but also they can come back to Indonesia in the same amount. Also, we start seeing the outbound investment policy. When we are talking about outbound investment policy, then we can have a joint venture. For example, Indonesia has a lot of unicorn for the digital economy. Whether we can have this kind of joint venture, for example, in Mozambique, in Nigeria, or even in South Africa, these are examples that we can have it. We can have it in the near future. Next. This is a picture coming from the same room, Indonesia-Africa Forum. The government considers this is only the beginning. And we are aiming, in the next future, we will also touch upon the creative economy. We also thinking of also having Indonesia-Africa infrastructure dialogue. Next. Next. The business deals come from that Indonesia-Africa Forum, not only in the areas of strategic industries, but also collaboration between the Exim Banks, Indonesian Exim Bank, Nigerian Exim Bank. We discuss now how we can use this budget for bringing products from Africa to Indonesia, and even we can have added value with this. If you see the business deals from the Indonesia-Africa Forum, for example, that Indonesia Exim Bank has agreement with African Exim Bank. Lessons learned from this is whether the next meetings of friends of creative economy, we have to bring more African Exim Bank, we have to bring more Bretton Woods institution mechanism, not only international organizations like UNDP and others. Next. While we have a better economic collaboration with Africa, unfortunately, those areas are not yet in the creative economy. Yes, we will have a stronger collaboration in social housing projects. Yes, we will have a stronger collaboration in extractive industry like smelter and investment, railways, buildings, and roads and bridges. But we also see the possibility to have a multiplier effect in the creative economy. These possible business deals will be announced in Indonesia Africa Infrastructure Dialogue that will be held, scheduled to be held on the 21st to 22nd August 2019. The question that we have now, whether in the margins of that meeting, we can also have something related to creative economy. Next. For example, tomorrow, can we show the picture? Yes. In the margins of our conference, one of Indonesian startup company, namely Startup Channel, they will hold an event on Thursday at Kintamani 5. It will be on Thursday at 11. This startup, for example, this is only one example. The startup will invite many players from Africa or other areas or countries to have a collaboration in the area of small, medium enterprises. They can even explore the possibilities for digital economy, for startup, or other areas that will be fit for the two parties. The issue is whether we would like to use this conference and to make a connection with our outcome. Hopefully, we can have a joint venture, even feasibility studies that we can announce maybe at the end of this conference. Next. In the margins of Indonesia-Africa Forum, Indonesia also shows how Indonesian creative agencies work with us. These are the examples how the comics, using the medium of comics to be used to communicate the results of collaboration between Indonesia-Africa to Indonesian audience. And according to the one surveys, one of the top likes or one of the top positive response to Indonesian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Twitter or social media are coming from these comics. So we see the big potential and we see the concrete possibilities that we will work together, and we see the importance all of us support for establishing, for announcing the possible feasibility studies that we can do between Indonesia and African countries, and we can invite triangular cooperation. I thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, for the explanation. And now we move on to the next speaker, which is Mr. Fajar Hutomo, Deputy of Access to Capital from Bekraf.
Thank you, Mrs. Moderators, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I have no visual presentation, so I will convey my pointers in a short brief. So today, this afternoon, in agenda number 5, we discussing about ecosystem and financing. This agenda item holds critical importance to our work, as we will discuss the importance of collaboration among stakeholders. This is including small and medium enterprise. So what we call by ecosystem is ecosystem of small, medium enterprise and entrepreneurship. I think we have in same opinion about the importance of the contribution of small, medium enterprise to creative economy or for creative economy. So I said, what kind of creative economy that we have to promote, what we have to accelerate, that is inclusive creative economy. Inclusive creative economy. In order to develop, to fostering impact economy, concerning of 3P paradigm, not only profit, but also people and planet. So our target should be how to develop, how to create as much as possible of social creative entrepreneur. And then at the end of the story, of course, we will we will fight to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, and agenda of 2030. And then the second one is about the financing support, especially if we talk about government roles and regulation in terms of financing. In my opinion, government roles has a very big role in introducing, in promoting the policies that support the existence of the ecosystem. What kind of policies? I think the policies has to cover of these three areas. The first is how to raise up the easiness of doing business for SME, small medium enterprise especially, and then tax incentive for the SMEs, and the last one is, and it is the important thing, the policies about financial support or financial scheme for SMEs, especially in inclusive creative economy. So, Pakraf Indonesia propose a few things that should be discussed furthermore and should be developed. The first is IP financing, intellectual property-based financing. It's because the economy creative is an economy that mainly based on intellectual property. And then the second one is how to utilize or how to use digital credibility scoring. You know, because if we're talking about the financial access for SMEs, we will face the certain problems like collateral, the limit of the asset ownership. So I think digital credibility scoring will be an answer for that problem. And then emphasizing Pak Iksan presentation said about the need of the existence of alternative financing, I think Indonesia especially have to promote and build a new scheme financing like blended financing, impact financing or impact investing, as well as fund of fund. Indonesia has a plan in coordination with and under supervised by Bappenas, Indonesia Agency for Planning Development, that we will launch a new scheme of impact fund, social impact fund. This is our first impact fund scheme in Indonesia. And the last one, I want to say that according to how we support the development of creative economy in Indonesia especially, we have to promote, we have to shifting our society, we have to shift our society from saving society into investing society or investing habits. So Indonesia would like to promote alternative financing like equity crowdfunding, because there is no exist in Indonesia in terms of regulation and legal standing, equity crowdfunding, angel investing, and also promote new stock market board, especially for small medium enterprise and startup, that what we call acceleration board. That's all. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Mr. Fajar Hutomo. Now our last speaker, please, Ms. Mukti Prasetyani from Head of Mandiri Institute of Bank Mandiri.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. As the last speaker, most of my materials already discussed with by the previous speakers. So I try to look from other angle. From Bank Mandiri, I'm the head of Mandiri Institute, which is the research institute of Bank Mandiri. According to title of this session is that how we put this ecosystem and financing into the new height. So what I want to discuss today is we have from the banking sector, we have microloan that can support the wants to expand their business to the medium or even big business. So I think the IP, the intellectual property right, is one way to can be used by the creative industries as a collateral for the banking loan. However, the IP, the use of IP, especially in Indonesia, is not very common. And also using IP as collateral also still have many challenges, especially in Indonesia. One is how we evaluate this IP, how we monetize the IP. As mentioned earlier by Pak Joshua, Backcraft tried to use IP as one of the requirements to have a funding. But then IP not just for this funding, but they can use the IP as a collateral. But the first challenge is how we evaluate the IP. The second challenge, once IP is monetized or bank can accept IP as collateral, what happens if the creative industry get bankrupt and this IP becomes one of the collateral, means that the bank have to sell the IP. Is there any secondary market for the IP? So from this forum, I want also to ask whether there's any experience from other countries that the banking system already use IP as collateral, and how to monetize it, how to evaluate it, who in charge in evaluating the IP, and then is how to build or to create the secondary market for this IP. The second thing that I want to discuss is on the fintech. As we know that as banking industry is have a limitation to funding the creative economy, creative industry, so another option is through fintech. Fintechs and also banks can collaborate with fintech. This already happened in Bank Mandiri, but not specifically on the creative economy. But Bank Mandiri already have a collaboration with Amarta. It's also one of the potential project that will be brought to Africa. So Amarta is the fintech that specializes in the women in the low-income economy. And Amarta provides the data or information on the prospective client for Bank Mandiri, and then Bank Mandiri will decide whether we want to fund that prospective client. So instead of seeing fintech as the competition for the banking sector, actually a bank and fintech can collaborate in many ways. That's the use of fintech because the limitation of bank in financing the creative economy. Another thing that Bank Mandiri done to support the creative industry is not through the financing, but we have this annual competition. We call it Wirausaha Muda Mandiri, or the Mandiri Young Entrepreneur competitions. We held that competition since 2007. Previously, we only have maybe 3 sectors that we competed, which is culinary, then fashion, and the other is, lastly, is the new technology, the digital technology. But the 2018 WMM, or Wirausaha Muda Mandiri, we have 7 sectors. So from the 3 sectors, because of we following the development of the creative industry, there's a lot of new sectors that can be competed. One is the industry, trade and services, which is a traditional sector. Second is culinary entrepreneur, which is based on the data from Backcraft, is the biggest sector in the creative economy. It's about maybe 60% of the creative economy is actually from the culinary sector. The third one is the creative entrepreneur. The fourth, social entrepreneur, which is new things that happening, especially among millennials, that they want to provide, they want to contribute to society, so they create this social entrepreneur. The fifth one is digital technology, and also we have non-digital technology, and the last one is the fintech digital. This Wirausaha Muda Mandiri, or Mandiri Young Entrepreneurs, already the alumni, the 2007 alumni, already grow into a big businesses. It means that that's a good way to nurture and develop the new or the young entrepreneur. Not only that, they also have the alumni, the forum WMM, the alumni forum of WMM, which becomes the place to share the information and also the experience among the alumni. It really helps the young, the newcomer, because especially and penetrate to the global market or the bigger market. How they can compete, or how can they prepare the product based on the global market requirement. So this alumni forum is really helpful for the WMM alumni. And the last one that I want to discuss is about the IR 4.0. This morning we have the concern from the Philippines about the BPO, that it can be replaced by AI, because the BPO is like, even now we have this chatbot, chatting robot, when we call the bank, and then actually it's not the person who answer our question, but actually the robot. But from my perspective, my opinion is that the creative economy is actually the one sector that can survive in this IR4. Why? Because the one that can be creative is only human. The machine cannot be creative. They just do what people create for them. So I think we don't have to worry that with this IR 4.0, with all this machine and computer, the creative economy can be disappeared. But actually, the development of the creative economy can be even faster, because now we have this 3D printing and everything that actually accelerate the development of the creative economy. So it means that from the human resource side, we need to, it's related to the education, training, and capacity building. We need to prepare our new generation to become more creative and more innovative. So I think this is one, I can say that the weakness of the Indonesian education system, that we not really stimulate our children or our students to be creative or innovative. So, and based on our ongoing research, we can see that most of the skills in Indonesia, that fastest growing skills in Indonesia, is actually more on the operator, not on the design or the strategic. So it means that we kind of lack of this creativity and innovation. So I think in this forum, I also want to suggest that for the Ministry of Education and Culture in Indonesia, we need to start to thinking how to prepare our new generation. There's a demographic bonus, how to be prepared for the IR 4.0, that we not then controlled by the machine, but we actually the one who control the machine. We are the creative one. So with that, I want to end my discussion. Thank you.
Well, thank you. So now we have listened to, I think we have complete stakeholders here because we have heard from international organization and then also from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is a national government, and also BECRAF, and also from the bank side, and also I see myself as the part of academia and community. And from each presenter, actually we have seen actual partnership with real projects and also with real impacts that also prove that the ecosystem actually works, but then also depends on the context itself. And it's interesting to also, actually Mr. Fajar Hutomo can say more about the tangible project of BECRAF, which has been done by Deputy of Access to Capital, such as the culinary business, and also what they are attempting now to do is to make IP as a collateral to finance the creative economy. And also, I think it's time also to give time to the floor if anyone wants to comment or ask questions to any of the panelists. And also, if there is a feasibility study between Amarta, which belongs to Mandiri, and if any of you representing any other countries similar to Africa that can also take up with the collaboration that can be taken over by all the stakeholders here. The floor is open, so anyone has any remarks or questions? If not, then I would like to, oh, sorry. Okay, please go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, sorry, I don't want to be too loud in the microphone. My name again is Charles Vallerand, a UNESCO expert of the 205 Convention. I would like first to thank the speakers. I think this was one of the best sessions. Well prepared and to the point, and I congratulate you for that. I've learned a lot, and this is good. Yes, thank you. First remark going to the representative from the Bank of Mandiri. IP has value, so much so that every time the United States engages in trade discussions, and it has recently done so with Canada and Mexico, it always seeks to extend the duration of the protection that copyright holders and IP. So it was 50 years, now it's gone to 70 years, and who knows, some say this is the Mickey Mouse clause, basically protecting Walt Disney's huge asset in intellectual property. So be assured that there is value for companies that are creative and well established. I think this is one area, IP, and I would call the financial flows of cultural industries. When there is money, whether it is public, private investment, risk capital, or even consumers' money, because eventually we want to develop the marketplace, that's where we need to learn from one another. I don't think we can build a creative sector, the creative economy, just with public funding. That's going to be limited. And we know that governments turn, ministers change, and institutions eventually also evolve. So if there's something in this room, because there's a lot of economies that are developing, Indonesia is more advanced. It has to share and can share with a lot of these countries its own experience, BICRAFT being a very good example of trying to address the creative economy in a broad sense. And I think building, structuring, and bringing stability and predictability to financial flows is a critical element. And IP for artists and creators is a founding pillar. Not just to preach that it's important, but to explain how it can be enforced. How do you bring the money back to the person that is at the center, the source of everything else? You don't have a creative economy if you don't have creators.
Good point, sir. Thank you. Okay. Anyone want to take up on the remarks? Or yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, I just want to add to build on Charles's remarks. The intellectual property puzzle, or the strategy behind it, I would say is the biggest challenge that we have in the Philippines right now, because our creative industries or creative sectors are famous when we sing other people's work. So you have all of the Broadway performers, the people in Disney who sing Disney songs, etc. So many of them are Filipino, but the Philippines does not get any intellectual property revenue from those performances. Or on the other hand, we have a lot of Filipinos who are backroom creators. Most notably, again, in Disney, we have several films where the lead animators were Filipino, or the lead special effects people were Filipino for some of the Lucasfilms productions, or even Marvel, Wolverine, etc., were penned by Filipinos, at one point. But again, the structure of it is that the individuals cede all of their intellectual property rights to those companies. It's the way the structure is. And somehow we're very conscious that how do we leverage the talent that Filipinos give, or whoever else gives, when they're doing it for another country or another company. It's definitely one of the biggest challenges we have. Thank you.
Thank you for the input. Anyone else would like to give some remarks or questions? Please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think the intellectual property debate is one that has an enormous impact on the creative industries. But of course, it is very much multifaceted. We've just heard from our colleague from UNESCO about the US's extension of intellectual property rights to protect mega industries. But there are also recipients on the other side of those intellectual property rights, and our colleague from Philippines referred to those, the performers, who are not necessarily protected. And of course also the parts of our population who need access and who maybe have limited access in the face of those intellectual property rights. I just want to recall we've recently, and maybe some of the colleagues were there, came back from debates in WIPO in Geneva, where the Performers Protection Act has been stalled for decades, where the Copyright Convention has been stalled for the better part of 20 years, and where the issues of limitations and exceptions for libraries, for people with disability and so on, are equally contentious. And even the issues of origin, the origins of design, the Design Law Treaty is equally stalled, and origins are protected sometimes against the interests and the rights of maybe the indigenous communities where they come from. So all I wanted to say is that this is an extremely complex and difficult debate, and I think that there are multifacets to the debate. I think our Director General this morning referred to the Marrakesh Treaty, which is specifically for access for people with visual limitations. So I think that this is maybe something that certainly we should continue to engage on, but we be aware that it's an extremely complex and difficult aspect. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Now we have another, I think, 10 more minutes for remarks or opinions or questions. If not, I would like to, if you don't mind, Mr. Fajar Hutomo, would you like to say a bit more about what Bekraf had done with the project, the latest project? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mbak Tita. Yeah, I would like to share some of what Bekraf has been doing so far relating to how to utilize an IP. The first is we have been working on some of serial FGDs, focus group discussion here in Indonesia to make it happen. Our new policy of how to implement IP financing, especially for banking scheme. Thank you from Bank Mandiri for saying that. And of course, not just only in banking, but also we can use the ownership of IP as a risk management for the venture capital as well. So we have a special program, for instance, in culinary industry. We have been running a program that we call it Food Startup Indonesia for these 3 years. This is our platform, our program to facilitate our new startup in culinary industry or in food industry to meet with the potential investor, with the venture capital, with the angel investors, with the private equities. So according to this program, I mean, so far we have been resulting in 250 startups, and the number of investment of venture capital and private equity in rupiah. Sorry, I try to remember. 25 billion rupiahs for those 200 startup. And then now we have a special program in Deputy of Infrastructure, Pak Hari Sungkari, that will deliver the presentation. That what we call Project Portamento. Maybe later Pak Hari can tell the program. Project Portamento is our platform to track the uses of IP, especially for the musician. So if this platform happen, this output of the platform could be used as a collateral, like salary report, something like that. And the musician can bring to the bank, for instance, to get some loan, either working loan or personal loan, based on the revenue, historical revenue of the musician downloading from the platform Project Portamento. Maybe that's all, Mbak Tita. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, as we can see, financing is actually a multidimensional matter that we cannot just see from one way, because in every process of creative economy, from the starting to becoming a business, from a person to becoming a huge entity of enterprises, in each process, it needs financing in different levels. And also, sometimes the actor itself gets or gain the resources from different resources as well. It's just that most of times creative people don't always get to have the comprehension on how to work on the economic system, financing system, and so on. So that's why this partnership is really important. So to close this session, if nobody else wants to put in remarks or have opinions or questions, okay, then I will close the sessions. Thank you very much. I give it back to Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tita, for leading this discussion. And of course, it's a very useful discussion. Like you said, the issue of financing is always considered as omnipresent in every stages of the activities of creative economy. Now with that, I think we concluded the discussion under the agenda number 5. And I believe according to my schedule, we're going to have a 15-minute coffee break before we continue with agenda number 6. And for that reason, I would like to give the floor to the announcer.
Thank you, Mr. Rudian. We will have a break, but due to a time constraint, I think I would suggest that we have a break for 10 minutes. And we still have a few more agendas to be completed this afternoon. The coffee break is served in this room. You are welcome to take coffee and tea on the left side of this room. So we're going to take a break for 10 minutes, and we'll see you on the next session. Thank you very much.